My name is Usman, and for most of my life, I believed I had a happy family. My wife, Zara, and our daughter, Noor, were everything to me. We shared a small but cozy house in the suburbs, filled with laughter, shared dinners, and the kind of quiet moments that make you feel safe. We had our ups and downs like any other family, but I thought we were strong enough to handle anything. Zara had always been the kind of woman who loved her independence. She was a graphic designer, working from home, which allowed her to manage both her career and family life. Noor, our 12-year-old daughter, was bright, curious, and incredibly close to her mother. The two of them shared an unbreakable bond. Sometimes I joke they communicated in their own secret language. A few months before the story I'm about to tell, Zara had mentioned she wanted to take a break. Work had been overwhelming, and she needed time to herself to recharge. After some discussion, she decided to take a solo vacation, a week away to a beach resort in a neighboring country. At first, I was hesitant, worried about managing everything alone, especially with Noor around. But Zara insisted, and I trusted her. Everyone needs a break sometimes, I told myself. Before she left, we had a quiet family dinner. Noor was excited for her mom's trip, helping pack her bags and making sure she had everything she needed. I watched Zara smile more brightly than I had seen in weeks, and I felt hopeful. Maybe this trip was exactly what she needed. The days without Zara were tougher than I imagined. Between work and school runs for Noor, I was stretched thin. I called Zara every night, just to hear her voice and make sure she was okay. She told me about the sunsets, the ocean breeze, and how peaceful it was. I was genuinely happy for her. But something started to change in those days. Noor grew quieter. She seemed distracted during our calls, and once, when I asked if she wanted to talk about anything, she just shook her head. I chalked it up to missing her mom. I thought maybe she was lonely, or maybe the change had unsettled her. When Zara finally called to say she was coming home early, I was thrilled. I didn't question why she was returning sooner than planned. I just wanted my family back together again. Noor was quieter still when I told her, and I wondered if she was trying to hold something inside. I had no idea that the moment Zara walked through that door, everything I believed about my family was about to shatter. The day Zara returned from her vacation started out like any other. Noor was unusually quiet that morning, picking at her cereal with her spoon, barely saying a word. I asked if she was excited that her mom was coming home early, and she gave me a half-hearted shrug. Something felt off, but I dismissed it. Maybe she was just tired. Maybe the week without her mom had been harder on her than she let on. That afternoon, I left work early to pick Zara up from the airport. I stood at the arrivals gate with a small bouquet in my hands, trying to shake off the nervous energy. I hadn't seen her in 5 days, but it felt like a month. I missed her. I missed us. I imagined hugging her, telling her how much we missed her, then heading home to a warm dinner and a quiet night together. But when I saw her walking toward me through the crowd, I knew something was wrong. Her smile was forced, polite, even sweet, but not genuine. She looked exhausted, emotionally drained. Her usually sharp, expressive eyes were distant. She wore an oversized hoodie, her hands stuffed in the pockets, and her body language screamed discomfort. Something inside me tightened. "Hey," I said, wrapping my arms around her. "Hey," she replied softly, allowing the hug but not fully returning it. Her body was stiff, hesitant. She avoided eye contact. On the way home, I asked about her trip. She kept her answers short. The weather was nice. The hotel was quiet. The food was okay. I waited for her to open up more, but she didn't. It was like she had left part of herself back there, wherever she'd really been. When we got home, Noor rushed to the door, but instead of the usual squeal of excitement and running into her mom's arms, she stood there silently. Zara crouched down to hug her, but Noor didn't move. She stared at her mother with wide, guarded eyes. I noticed Zara wince slightly when she stood up, as if her body was sore. Zara brushed past us and headed to the bedroom, muttering something about needing rest. She didn't even unpack. I stood in the hallway for a moment, confused. This wasn't the reunion I imagined. Later that night, I brought her a cup of tea. She was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. The lights were off. I placed the cup on the nightstand and sat beside her. "You okay?" I asked gently. "Just tired," she whispered. "You came home early. Did something happen?" She didn't respond. After a few seconds, she turned to her side, facing away from me. I didn't press her. The next few days were even stranger. Zara barely spoke. She avoided any physical closeness, even casual touches. Nor watched her carefully, not with affection, but with suspicion. Every time Zara walked into the room, Noah would go quiet or leave altogether. Then it happened. One morning, I walked into the bathroom and noticed something on the counter, a printed appointment slip from a local clinic. It was a prenatal consultation. The name was hers. The date was 2 days ago. My hands went numb. I sat on the edge of the tub, staring at the paper. Pregnant? I did the math. It didn't make sense. We hadn't been intimate in weeks before her trip. She had been distant, claiming stress, headaches, and deadlines. But now, barely a week after coming home, she had already visited a doctor for a pregnancy. I felt the room spin around me. I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to go there. But how could I not? I tucked the slip back where I found it and left the bathroom. My chest was tight, my head buzzing. When I stepped into the living room, Nora looked up from the couch. Her eyes met mine. She knew. She had known something long, before I did. And that was the first moment I truly understood. This wasn't just a bad week. Something much deeper, much darker had happened. Something that was about to destroy everything we once called family. That evening, the silence in the house was unbearable. Zara stayed locked in our bedroom. I didn't confront her, not yet. I didn't know what I'd say. I didn't know what I wanted to say. My mind was racing with questions I wasn't ready to hear the answers to. But Nor, she was done with the silence. She sat at the kitchen table, arms folded, staring down at the untouched plate of food I had set in front of her. I could feel her gaze burning into me every time I moved. It wasn't the kind of look a child gives their parent out of fear or confusion. It was blame. "Do you know?" she asked suddenly, breaking the heavy quiet. I turned to face her. "Know what?" She scoffed and looked away. "Of course you don't." "Nor," I said cautiously, sitting across from her. "If there's something you need to tell me, now's the time." Her jaw tightened. She wouldn't even look at me. "I saw her phone," she mumbled finally. I froze. "You what?" "I saw it before she went on vacation. Messages. Pictures. From some guy. I didn't know who he was, but she deleted them when she saw me near her phone." I leaned forward. "Why didn't you say anything?" "I thought I was wrong," she snapped, her voice cracking. I didn't want to believe it. I thought maybe it was just work stuff or someone annoying her. But then she left, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And when she came back, her eyes finally met mine. "She's pregnant, isn't she?" I didn't answer. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she blinked them away angrily. "I can't believe you let this happen." That hit me like a slap. "Me?" I asked, stunned. "Nor, I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't even know." "But you let her go," she shouted. "You just let her leave for a whole week when things between you two were already weird. You didn't even ask questions. You acted like everything was fine." I sat there, speechless. I wanted to defend myself. I wanted to yell that none of this was fair, that I wasn't the one who lied, that I wasn't the one who betrayed the family. But all I could say was, I trusted her. Nora stood up from the table, her face red and trembling. "Maybe you shouldn't have. Maybe none of this would have happened if you'd actually paid attention." And with that, she stormed off to her room and slammed the door behind her. I sat there in the kitchen for what felt like hours, her words echoing in my mind. "You let this happen." Had I? I replayed the past few months, the distance, the excuses, the late nights, and canceled plans. I had noticed. I just chose not to believe anything was really wrong. I gave her space. I gave her the benefit of the doubt. And now, my daughter, the one person I thought I could still count on, looked at me like I was part of the problem. That night, I stood outside Zara's closed bedroom door. I wanted to go in, to ask her everything, to demand the truth. But I couldn't. Not yet. I wasn't ready. Instead, I walked past Nora's room. Her light was off. She was quiet, maybe crying, maybe hating me, maybe both. I felt like I was losing both of them, one to betrayal, the other to blame. And the worst part? I didn't even know how to fight for either of them anymore. The next morning came with a heaviness I couldn't shake. The sun was shining outside, but inside our home, everything felt gray. Nor didn't speak to me. Zara stayed in the bedroom, and I moved through the house like a stranger in my own life. I couldn't keep pretending nothing had happened. The slip from the clinic, Nora's accusation, Zara's silence. It all pointed in one direction, but I needed the truth. Not guesses, not suspicions. The truth. So I started looking. It began with her phone. Zara was still asleep or pretending to be when I quietly walked into the bedroom. Her phone was on the nightstand, screen down. I hesitated, fingers hovering above it. We'd never snooped on each other before. But this wasn't curiosity, it was survival. I had to know what I was dealing with. I unlocked it using the fingerprint she'd registered years ago, back when we trusted each other without question. Nothing suspicious in her recent messages. Nothing in her call log. Almost too clean. Then I opened the gallery. There it was. A folder buried deep in her cloud storage labeled temp. I clicked. My breath caught. Photos. Dozens of them. Her on the beach, smiling, but not alone. A man. Tall. Lean. In every shot, his arm was either around her or holding her hand. In one photo, they were kissing. This wasn't just a mistake. This was a relationship. A notification popped up from a messaging app one didn't recognize. I tapped it. Morning, love. Feeling okay? Hope the appointment went well. Call when you can. My stomach turned. I backed out of the app, turned off the phone, and quietly left the room. Later that day, while Zara was in the shower, I went through her travel documents. Her flight ticket said she returned 2 days earlier than what she told me. I checked the clinic slip again. The prenatal appointment? That was the day she came home, not the day after. She'd gone straight from the airport to the clinic. I looked at the calendar, based on what I knew about Zara's cycle. Information no husband wanted to analyze, but I found myself obsessing over the pregnancy likely happened during that trip. The math was clear. This child wasn't mine. And now I had proof. Out of desperation, I called one of Zara's closest friends, Amina. We weren't very close, but I needed to know if she'd heard anything, seen anything, or could give me even the smallest hint. Hey, Amina, I know this is awkward, but did Zara talk to you while she was on her trip? There was a long pause on the other end. Usman, I don't think I should get involved. She's pregnant, Amina, and she's not talking to me. Nora's angry. I just need the truth. Please. Another pause. Then she sighed. She wasn't alone, Usman. She didn't go with her co-workers. She met someone there, someone she'd been messaging with for months. I begged her not to go through with it, but she said she needed to feel alive again. She said things between you two were distant. She said that? Yes, but I didn't think she'd go that far. I never expected this. I thanked her and ended the call. My hand was shaking. Not from shock. I was past that now. I felt something colder. Certainty. That evening, Nur finally spoke. She walked into the living room where I was sitting with the printed photos in a small folder beside me. She looked tired, emotionally drained beyond her years. I'm sorry I yelled at you, she said quietly. I looked up. You had every right to be upset. I just didn't know what to do. I thought maybe it was your fault for letting her go. But now, I just want her to tell the truth. I nodded slowly and patted the space beside me. She sat down, and I handed her the folder. She flipped through it wordlessly. Tears welled in her eyes. I hate her for this. No, I said gently. You don't hate her. You're just hurt, just like me. She closed the folder and leaned against me. What are we going to do? She whispered. I didn't have an answer. Not yet, but I knew this much. I couldn't let lies destroy the little trust Noor and I still had. It was time for Zara to talk. No more silence. No more hiding. It was time for the confrontation. I didn't sleep that night. My mind raced, trying to figure out how to approach the conversation I'd been avoiding for days. Everything inside me wanted to scream, to throw the photos in her face and demand answers. But I didn't want this to be just a fight. I needed the truth. Calm, clear, undeniable. The next morning, I waited until Noor left for school. She barely looked at her mother before closing the door behind her. The silence that followed was heavy, the kind that fills every corner of a home when love has started to rot. Zara was in the kitchen, sipping tea like nothing had happened, still wearing the same oversized hoodie, still avoiding my eyes. I walked in and placed a folder of printed photos on the table between us. Her hand paused midair, the mug halfway to her lips. She didn't look at the photos. She didn't need to. "You know what this is," I said. My voice was low, even but firm. She set the mug down slowly. Her lips trembled, but she said nothing. "I know about the man. I know you weren't alone on that trip. I saw the messages, the photos, the appointment slip. The timeline doesn't lie, Zara. And now, I want to hear from you." Still nothing. My heart pounded in my chest, waiting for her to speak. And then, after what felt like forever, she whispered, "It wasn't supposed to happen like this." I leaned in slightly. "Then how was it supposed to happen?" She closed her eyes. "I didn't go there to cheat. At least, that's what I told myself. We've been talking for a few months, just online at first. He was someone I met through a client project. Harmless flirting, venting. You and I hadn't been close lately. I felt invisible." My chest tightened. "So your solution was to disappear into someone else's arms?" "I didn't plan it," she said quickly, her voice cracking. "But when I got there, he showed up, said he wanted to meet. And I didn't stop him. I didn't say no. I ran a hand through my hair, pacing the room. You could have talked to me. You could have told me how you felt. Instead, you went behind my back, lied to me, and now," I pointed toward the folder, "you're pregnant with his child." She flinched. Tears filled her eyes. "I didn't know I was pregnant until I got back. I thought maybe it was stress. But when I took the test, I knew, and I didn't know what to do. Were you ever going to tell me?" I asked. "Or were you just going to pretend everything was fine and hope I didn't figure it out?" "I don't know," she admitted. "I was scared, ashamed. I didn't want to lose Noor or you." I laughed bitterly. "You already lost us the moment you chose him." She broke down then. Silent sobs shook her body, but I felt nothing but numbness. Watching her cry didn't bring me any peace. It didn't make anything better. "Who is he?" I asked. She wiped her face. "His name's Saad. He's from Dubai. He's charming, confident, made me feel important. And now, I haven't spoken to him since I found out," she said. "He doesn't even know." I stared at her, trying to recognize the woman I once loved, the one I built a life with. But all I saw was someone I no longer knew. "The worst part," I said, "isn't the cheating. It's the way you let Noor believe I was to blame. She thought I was the one who failed you. You let her walk around confused, angry, feeling betrayed by her own father. And you said nothing." Zara's lips quivered. I didn't know how to face her. I thought if I said nothing, maybe it would go away. "It didn't," I said coldly. "It only got worse." There was a long pause between us. "So what happens now?" she asked finally. I looked at her, really looked. She was broken. Yes, but I was too. And some cracks don't heal. Some just stay to remind you. "I don't know what kind of future you're hoping for," I said, "but it's not going to include us." Her shoulders slumped, but she didn't argue. "I'll file for separation," I continued. "You can decide how to explain all this to Noor, though I'll make sure she knows the truth, gently. As for the child, I have no place in that story." She nodded slowly. "I understand." And in that moment, I realized something. Sometimes closure doesn't come with rage or shouting. Sometimes it comes in silence, the kind that settles over two people who've already said all there is to say. I stood, walked toward the hallway, and paused. "One more thing," I said without turning around. "I loved you. I really did. And I hope one day you understand what you threw away. Then I walked out, leaving behind the woman I once called my wife, and the life I no longer recognized. The silence between us lingered long after our conversation. I had said what I needed to say, and for once, Zara didn't try to change the ending. She stayed in the bedroom most of the day, and I didn't follow her. There was nothing left to salvage, only the wreckage to sort through. That evening, I waited for Nora to come home from school. I'd promised her the truth, and I intended to keep that promise. She walked in, dropped her bag at the door, and hesitated when she saw me sitting on the couch, as if bracing for more disappointment. "Can we talk?" I asked gently. She nodded and sat down, hugging a pillow tightly to her chest. "I spoke to your mom. I began." She confirmed everything. There was someone else on the trip. She made a mistake, a big one, but none of this, absolutely none of it, was your fault. Her eyes shimmered, but she didn't cry. "I know," she whispered. I wanted to believe it wasn't true." "I know you did," I said. "So did I." She looked down at her hands. "Are you guys getting divorced?" I took a deep breath. "We're separating. For now. Maybe permanently. I can't stay in something that's built on lies." She was quiet for a while, and then said something that hit me harder than I expected. "Do I still get to live with you?" The lump in my throat nearly choked me. I reached out and held her hand. "You're my daughter, Nor. Nothing changes that. You'll always have a home with me, no matter what." She nodded slowly, and for the first time in days, she leaned against me, her head resting on my shoulder. I felt the weight she'd been carrying, and I realized she had been stuck between two adults who both let her down, one through betrayal and the other through silence. Later that night, I called Zara into the living room. She came out looking tired, drained, as if the weight of her decisions had finally begun to crush her. Nora didn't say a word. She sat beside me, back straight, face expressionless. "I've told Nora the truth," I said. "She knows everything now." Zara nodded, unable to meet our daughter's eyes. "We'll figure out the legal parts," I continued. "But I'm taking Nora for now. You need to sort your life out. Think about what kind of parent you want to be moving forward. She's not a pawn in this. She's not someone you can win or lose." Zara opened her mouth to speak, but Nora stood up before she could. "I just want space," Nora said calmly. "From all of this." Zara's face crumpled, but she didn't argue. Maybe she knew it was too late to fix things with a few words. The next morning, Nora and I packed a few bags and left the house. I had already arranged to stay with my brother for a while. He welcomed us without question. A guest room for me and a spare bedroom for Nora. It wasn't permanent, but it was peaceful, and that's what we needed more than anything. For the first time in days, I saw Nora smile. Just a little. And for the first time since Zara's return, I allowed myself to believe that maybe we could rebuild. Not the marriage, but the pieces of life that had been shattered by betrayal. A new life, a new beginning. One honest step at a time. The weeks that followed were quiet. Not the kind of silence filled with tension, but the kind that lets you breathe again. Nor, and I settled into my brother's home with surprising ease. She started smiling more, laughing even, slowly rediscovering the innocence she had lost during those heavy, uncertain days. I filed for separation a week after we moved out. Zara didn't contest it. There were no arguments, no courtroom drama. It felt like we were both too tired to fight for something already broken. She asked for occasional visitation with Nora, and I agreed with caution. I wasn't going to let our daughter be hurt again, not emotionally, not ever. One evening, while I was doing the dishes, Nora walked up and said something that made me stop in my tracks. "I don't hate her anymore," she said quietly. I looked over at her, surprised. "No." She shook her head. "I still don't like what she did. And I don't trust her. But I don't want to keep carrying it around either." There was wisdom in her that I hadn't seen before, the kind that only comes from heartbreak and healing. She had lost a version of her family she once believed was unshakable, but she was learning to live beyond it. So was I. I started going to therapy once a week. It helped. Talking about the betrayal, the confusion, and the guilt I carried allowed me to begin letting go. I realized I had spent so long trying to hold a marriage together that I forgot to check whether it was worth saving. Zara reached out a few times. Her messages were polite, sometimes remorseful. I didn't respond much beyond what was necessary for Noor's sake. She was, and would always be, Noor's mother. But that's where our connection now ended. One Saturday morning, I sat with Noor on the porch of my brother's house, sipping tea while she read a book. The sky was clear, the air calm. For the first time in a long time, I felt steady. Life didn't turn out the way I thought it would. The love I believed was forever had expired. But from the ashes of that betrayal, I found something more important: clarity, strength, and a bond with my daughter that no lie could break. This wasn't the ending I expected, but maybe, just maybe, it was the beginning I needed.